Recognizing how our design choices can encourage certain actions and behaviors allows us to think past our aesthetics and into how that environment is actually used by those in it. By carefully observing an area, we can find ways to improve the use of space and, more importantly, provide guidance to generate more positive behavioral outcomes. In order to see what can be improved, we actually need to see what we already have, and that's where behavior mapping comes in. Behavior mapping is observing and collecting data about what happens in a location. More specifically, we're looking at the behavior patterns of those in that area. There are apps you can use these days, but today we're going to stick with good old pen and paper. First, we'll need a partner. We have our chart listing the behavior attributes, a map to pinpoint the location of those behaviors, and also something to note the time of the observation. Bring a camera too in order to document the areas that you're observing. Looking at a map of the plaza, we're going to split this area into 4 zones. We can use the walls and corners of the surrounding buildings and the boundaries of the existing wall. We can also use the street cutting through to delineate the borders of these zones. The observation zones are also going to dictate where you start the mapping. Observer 1 will start in Zone 1, while Observer 2 goes to whatever constitutes the farthest opposite zone. Since the zones are numbered, this usually means somewhere near the middle of the numbers. For example, if we had 12 zones, the second observer would begin in Zone 7. Since we've decided on 4 zones for this plaza, the second observer will start their cycle in Zone 3. Okay, so we're going to give it a go. Now we have to start at the same time, so I'm going to give my partner the signal and we'll begin. We start from the left corner of our observation zone and then rotate to the right. Once we spot our first observation, stop and record that behavior data. Then continue the rotation until you've covered the entire zone. Since people may be continuously moving through an area, we may not get everyone that passes through. We'll cover this area again when we start our next complete round. Also remember, we're recording behaviors, not the people, so it's possible we may end up noting the same person if they move around within the space. That's fine, just note the behavior. Okay, I've recorded data for Zone 1, and so now I'm going to move on to Zone 2. After I've finished there, I'm going to move on to the next zone and so forth until I've recorded data for every zone. Now remember, your partner is also moving from zone to zone during this process. So if somehow you catch up to them, just stop, wait for them to finish their zone before you move in and start recording. There can be only one observer in a zone at a given time. Once we finish all of this process, we'll both have data for every single zone. Okay, so I've just finished recording data for my last zone. My partner is finishing up his last zone, and that will make up our first round. Now we're going to do 3 more rounds of this next, and that will make up our first session. Now we may want to do more sessions, perhaps at different times of day, and that will give us an even better idea of what's taking place in these different zones.